My name's Tim. I'm an alcoholic.
Right, Tim.
Yeah, if you were just hoping to ease yourself into that reading, it was gone before, you'd started. So the idea, being willing to go to any lengths for victory over alcohol. So I'm an alcoholic. Alcoholism. I'm no enemy of alcohol, but I am an enemy of alcoholism. It's a disgusting thing. In my case, it just stripped me of any dignity. Apart from the fact it was going to kill me, that fact that it was going to kill me grabbed my attention. There was a period of extreme folly where I rather sort of brandished the fact I was an alcoholic as a badge of honour or something that made me different and interesting. And to me it was interesting. To no one else it was interesting. When I joined AA, I had no one to tell. And that tells you something about my drinking. There was no one to run to with the exciting news. There was someone I hadn't seen in 2 years who I even then had barely known, who got to the phone call that night with the dramatic revelations. And that was, I never spoke to her ever again. So that was the condition I was in. And I was in that condition because the way I drank, people didn't want to spend time with me. There were certain facts about my alcoholism which I had to learn, and I learnt them in a sequence, really. The first one was that any notion that I would keep my drinking to reasonable proportions was firmly destroyed by the age of 19. I think for a couple of years, and as far as I was capable of thinking, I thought that, well, maybe I can do this catastrophic destructive drinking over here and maintain some semblance of a life over there, and I'll keep the two plates spinning. And fuck it. It won't be what I wanted, but I'll keep it going. Not ideal, but I can live with it. Then I couldn't live with it. There was no way I could maintain the vessel to carry that alcoholism. It was destroying the vessel. It's like a container full of acid. Eventually the acid burns all the way through and threatens to destroy the container. So I started the round of stopping drinking altogether. I was at the point now, I thought, I can't moderate, fine, cross that off the list. I'm going to stop altogether. And there had been times, the first one was when I was 18, when I stopped altogether after a breakdown. And I'd stopped really for 3 months at that point, and there was I was very ill initially, but I didn't have DTs at 18. I didn't have visions or anything. I was just very ill for a few days. By the age of 21, I got to a point where I could manage a couple of days. Once I managed 2 weeks. But I'd start again. So whatever powerful resolve I had to stay sober forever, because that was the only option if I was going to survive, had no lasting effect. It had the effect of propelling me into a few days or a couple of weeks of sobriety, but that's it. So the whole purpose of AA is based on the idea I cannot do this on my own. If I could, I would. I'd be out. You wouldn't see me for dust. I do like AA, I have to say. I like the people. I like the activities. I like sponsoring people. I've done a lot of service since I've been in AA. I do like that. But I wouldn't do any of it if I didn't have to. I'd be doing something else. So I do this because I have to. Now, this that I have to do, I remember, embarrassingly, when I was about 1.5 years, saying, well, alcoholism is the only disease you get well from by talking. And I was very pleased with that idea. Of course, it's quite wrong. What I needed to do was action. And the truth is that wasn't even consistent with my own experience. my own experience was that, I don't know what you were like when I was drinking, I was really fucking boring. And I was mouthy. And the combination is just deadly. Now, you'd think that being boring would stop when you get sober. Unfortunately, it doesn't. That was the point. I thought because I was in recovery, I'd suddenly become interesting and that everyone was fascinated by the contents of my mind and my twisted, complicated emotions. P.S. they're not. It's just that they're nodding because they're polite, not because they're interested. They love you. That's different. But the narratives. I was so trapped inside my own head, and I came to AA and thought, if I go to enough meetings and talk to enough people about what is going on, I'll stay sober. And I didn't. Some people do. Hooray. Marvellous. I think there are maybe different sorts of alcoholism. Who knows? My sort is, as doctors would say, refractory to the talking therapy. In other words, it doesn't work. It works for a bit, and you think, oh God, this is very good. Go to a meeting, go for fellowship, blah, 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 blah. And you hear other people go, blah, 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 blah. You don't listen to them, just waiting for your turn, blah, 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 blah. And it works, and then it doesn't. And then you're like, well, fuck. What am I going to do now? And the bad news is to work the steps and do some service and do some really apparently unpleasant things like an inventory and sharing all of your past concisely, not every detail, but just the, big ticket items. I had to go and make amends. I had to go and apologise to a lot of people I was very ashamed in relation to. I had to start paying back the money. I had to get a job in order to start paying back the money. I was going to say rejoin the human race because that's the phrase in the language. I'd never been part of the human race. I'd fundamentally rejected the world and its people and its activities. At the age of 9 or 10, I thought, I don't think much of this. I'm off. Now, it was a while before I found somewhere to go, but I did find somewhere to go, and that's when the drinking started. So I had to join the human race, and it was, frankly, a trial by fire. The notion of working, I remember I was about a year sober. I was in a job, and it was what they might call a proper job. I was in a proper job where you had to wear a little shirt, a little tie. And it got to 5:30. I thought, we're off home now. And it got to 5:35 and I started to sweat and thinking, no one seems to be going home. I didn't know you had to wait till all the work was done, until everyone was finished. Then you could go. I didn't know this. Amazing. I heard the phrase 9 to 5 and I thought that's what the world of work was. No idea how any of this operated. I felt very ill-used by that employer who was paying me. I'd signed a contract to say I'd work the hours I was given, but I hadn't read it, of course. And that difficulty, that the most basic things were utterly alien to me. Forming friendships, learning how to form friendships, took years to even get the basics of it. I remember years in, even just looking at people's faces and thinking, my God, I've done something really wrong here and I have no idea what. But AA is amazing because certainly in London it's very big. There are a lot of people. You mess up royally, just go somewhere else. Now you can, if you really hurt people, you have to make amends. Fine, apologise, clean up the mess. But you can try, there are always new people to try it out with. I would burn through people in so many different ways. And thank God there's a constant supply of fresh blood coming to AA. There's a phrase in the big book about being maladjusted to life. Now, that's not the cause of my alcoholism. In fact, the line is often misunderstood. It says, it talks about being maladjusted to life and full flight from reality, or being an outright mental defective. And I identified with all three of those in various ways, rightly or wrongly. But what the line says is, that's not why you drink so much. It's not saying you drink because you're these things. No, it's not because of that. But the trouble is I was left with that when I did get sober. That line, it was agreed at the beginning that we would have to go to any lengths to stay sober, has been my experience. Now, at the beginning, the any lengths were pretty rough. So lots and lots of meetings. The strong meetings in London, I got sober in 1993. The strong meetings were over one side of London and I lived over the other side of London. So there's a lot of travelling, doing my step 4 on the tube, reading AA literature on the tube, listening to AA tapes on the tube. I would go from naught to suicide in 30 seconds. My ability to I had no emotional maturity, so I responded very badly to things not going my way, things not being to my preference, things not being to my taste, other people not behaving the way I thought they ought to behave. And my instant go-to solution, I'll just kill myself, that will show them. And I needed to do a huge amount simply not to kill myself in the first year. Now, I know I don't want to sort of sell a bill of goods to people about AA in the bad sense. I think most people in their first year, I see people having an amazing experience in their first year. I think I was unusually tricky. But I did all of this. Number one, because I didn't want to die. Number two, I didn't want to die in particular of alcoholism. Number 3, I didn't want to die by suicide. There'd been enough suicide in my family, enough mental illness. I'd seen what it had done. I couldn't bear the notion, even though I'd be dead and wouldn't feel guilty, the anticipatory guilt of if I kill myself as well on top of everyone else. No, I couldn't do it. And a funny thing's happened because I was doing, frankly, literally everything I was told. The fellowship, the service, the meetings, the steps, the prayer, the meditation, the reading the daily books, the reading the these, the reading the those. I did some Al-Anon as well pretty early on. I needed to. What started to happen, I started to get glimpses of, you know what, here, like this planet is actually okay. In pockets, generally no, but there are pockets which are fine. I just need to find the pockets. And the difference now, 31 years later, is I'm having a fucking ball, thank you very much, in my life. I love my life. Now, I don't hold with the notion of having problems. I come from a problem family. I grew up full of problems. When something happens today, I refuse to class it as a problem. Either I can do something about it, in which case it's a call to action, then I can take the action. Or it's a fact, in which case I need to grow up and accept the fact like grown-ups do, without complaining and whining. There's a line in Game of Thrones where someone is complaining and someone says, "You're complaining." He said, "I'm not complaining." And he said, "Your lips are moving and you're issuing complaints from your face. You are complaining." Whatever I think I'm doing when I'm not accepting reality is just grumbling, whining, complaining. And it doesn't help, it doesn't change anything, and it fucks my life up and it's dull for everyone else. Accept the reality. Because I'm male, I man up. I don't know what other people do, but I man up to it, put on my big boys' panties. If I need to take some action, take the action. God will give me the strength, and people in AA and common sense and wisdom and knowledge and research will give me an indication of what to do. I had an interesting week last week. There are 3 types of blessing I've got in AA. The first type of blessing is things which are just patently good, meeting amazing people who utterly change your life. Type of blessing number 1. Type of blessing number 2, I had a little breakdown when I was about 8 years sober, all my own doing. And the result was I had to leave the type of work I was doing, and now I do something much more interesting. So that's something that turned into a blessing. There's a third type of blessing. There are things that happen which are no good to man or beast, no good to me, no good to anyone, but they force me to grow and develop my relationship with God, and as a result of that, everything else gets transformed. So it doesn't matter how bad it is, put it in God's hands, it'll be transformed. So everything is a blessing. That's all I've got.